Hey there, okay, before we even really get into things, just take a deep breath for a second. Look, if you clicked on this explainer today, my guess is, well, some part of you probably already knows that something just isn't sitting right. You know the feeling, right? Maybe you keep catching yourself apologizing for things that definitely weren't your fault, or you just feel totally spun around in your own head. I want to validate that right out of the gate. You aren't crazy. So let's dive right into this explainer and unpack exactly what is actually happening behind the scenes.
All right, Section 1, the invisible trap.
Have you ever caught yourself seriously doubting your own memory, or your feelings, or even like your basic read on reality in a way you literally never used to do? When you're constantly saying I'm sorry for stuff that isn't on you, it creates this absolutely exhausting internal tug of war. And if that sounds familiar, well, there's a pretty crucial thing we need to understand about how this trap actually works.
See, growing up, we're all taught to watch out for the super obvious signs of manipulation. You know, someone screaming in your face, making aggressive demands, just acting clearly dangerous. But subtle manipulation? It's completely blinding, mostly because it doesn't look dangerous at all. Sometimes it literally looks like affection or deep concern or even love. And that right there is exactly why these tactics are so incredibly tough to spot when you're actually the one stuck inside the situation. Moving on to Section 2, the psychology of control. Let's look at why this actually works so well. Back in 2002, psychologists Delroy Paulhus and Kevin Williams came up with this framework called the dark triad. It covers 3 traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Now, quick caveat here. These aren't clinical diagnoses, okay? And just having one of these traits doesn't automatically mean someone is abusive. But what researchers found is that they share these really socially aversive characteristics. Think deep self-interest, emotional coldness, and a real knack for manipulation. But here's the tricky part. The person showing these traits usually masks them behind a super charming, confident, and highly magnetic personality. They're often the person that everyone else in the room just completely adores. To really get why this works on us, we have to look at behavioral psychology. Let's talk about B.F. Skinner's famous pigeon experiment from 1948. Basically, he delivered food to these pigeons completely independent of what they were doing. It was totally unpredictable. And what happened? The birds desperately tried to find a pattern. They repeated random behaviors, and their focus just dialed in intensely. Honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the human brain. When someone gives us this incredible glowing warmth and then bam, suddenly hits us with ice-cold silence, our brain doesn't just logically walk away. That unpredictable reinforcement forces us to hyper-focus on figuring out exactly how to get that original reward back.
Which brings us to Section 3, 5 manipulation patterns you need to know. We're going to break down 5 specific behaviors objectively: gaslighting, love bombing, Darvo, isolation, and moving the goalposts. Learning these is going to equip you with the exact tools you need to spot the threat in real time. First up is gaslighting. This is that classic tactic where a manipulator flat out denies things that you clearly 100% remember. They'll look you in the eye and insist you're just being too sensitive, or that you completely misread the situation. But the real danger here isn't just that they convince you of one specific lie. Oh no. The true damage is that over time, you actually stop questioning them and you start questioning yourself. You just lose all confidence in your own grip on reality. Next, we've got love bombing. Now let's be clear. Totally healthy people can be intense and enthusiastic and romantic. Intense romance isn't inherently a red flag. The actual danger is when that overwhelming affection becomes conditional. It's when the constant texting, the huge compliments, the sweeping declarations of love, when all of that suddenly vanishes the literal second you don't do exactly what they want. So the problem isn't the love itself. It's that the affection is being weaponized as a tool for control. Pattern number 3 is Darvo. This is a term coined by psychologist Jennifer Freyd, and it stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and defender. Let me tell you, this is an incredibly dizzying conversational loop. Think about it. You try to bring up something they did that genuinely hurt your feelings, boom, instantly they deny it. Then they pivot and attack you just for bringing it up in the first place. And somehow, almost like a magic trick, by the end of the conversation, you are the one apologizing and desperately defending your own character. It completely flips reality upside down. Then we have the 4th pattern, isolation. And this one, it rarely happens overnight. It's sneaky. Little by little, your friends get labeled as a bad influence, or your family gets called toxic. You just keep hearing this narrative that your loved ones just don't understand you like I do. What this does is systematically strip away your outside reality checks.
It slowly, methodically forces you to rely entirely on the exact person creating the problem, because they've successfully cut off everyone else who could help you see the truth.
And our fifth pattern is moving the goalposts. This one relies on the false hope of thinking, okay, if I just get this one thing right, everything's going to be fine. You fix one problem and wow, another one magically appears out of thin air. You apologize, but oops, you didn't apologize with the right tone of voice. Honestly, the cruelty of this is that the standards are constantly changing, meaning you can never actually cross the finish line. The whole shebang is designed for one thing, to keep you trying, endlessly.
All right, section 4, the empathy reframe. Let's talk about being human.
Let's get something straight right now. You didn't fall for this because you're gullible. You fell for it because you are human. Seriously, the biggest misconception out there is assuming that manipulation only works if the victim is weak or naive. Absolutely not true. As humans, we are literally hardwired to bond, to trust, and to hold out hope. Your loyalty, your deep empathy, your patience, your willingness to give people the benefit of the doubt, these are beautiful, wonderful human strengths. They are just being exploited, but they are not flaws. I really want you to remember this. The problem wasn't your ability to love. The problem was what someone else chose to do with your trust. So moving forward, the key takeaway is that your goal isn't to build a wall and become this cold, closed-off person. Not at all. Your goal is simply to become much, much more discerning about who actually deserves that trust. Section 5. Taking your power back. Time for some practical steps. Let's quickly walk through 5 super practical steps you can take. Step 1. Name it. Literally get a pen and write down what happened. Just the cold, hard facts. No emotional interpretation. You'd be amazed how much immediate perspective that brings. Step 2. Give yourself time. If you feel pressured, just step back and say, I need a minute to think about this. Step 3, reconnect with just one trusted person outside of the relationship so you can reality check things. Step 4, test a small boundary. Say no to something totally reasonable. A healthy person, they'll accept a no. A manipulator will punish you for it. And finally, step 5, reduce engagement. Notice how literally none of these steps require a huge dramatic movie-style confrontation. You can do this quietly. But hey, what if you're in a situation where you can't just fully step away? Like maybe it's a coworker you sit next to or a family member. That is where the gray rock strategy is an absolute lifesaver. Basically, you become a boring gray rock. You keep your responses incredibly brief, super calm, and completely emotionally neutral. It protects your energy and keeps you from getting sucked into their endless drama. But really important caveat here. If you are ever dealing with threats or you fear for your physical safety, gray rock is not the play. Please reach out to a professional or a local support service right away. You absolutely do not have to carry that burden alone. As we wrap this up, I want to tie everything back to behavioral psychology with this one really brilliant comparison. Think about unpredictable rewards for a second. It's like checking a silent phone over and over, right? And then the sheer relief when a text finally pops up. Now map that onto unpredictable relationships. One day they're incredibly warm, and the very next day they're completely distant. You get stuck desperately chasing that next moment of warmth because, as we saw with the pigeons, that unpredictable reinforcement is insanely powerful. You aren't sticking around because you're consistently happy. You're sticking around for what might happen next. Once you actually see that loop for what it is, you can finally break it. Look, manipulation isn't some mysterious, unstoppable superpower. It relies on very predictable patterns. And once you can spot those patterns, you get your choices back. You are not the problem here. But figuring out how to protect yourself moving forward, that is entirely in your hands now. I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on. Which of these patterns did you recognize first? Seriously, think about it. Let that realization be your very first step in taking your power back. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.